Yes, people, what we have now is a situation where you see that the countries that have the advanced weaponry, weapons of war, they are the ones that are posturing the most on the face of the earth, and they are the ones that are causing the most problems on the face of the earth. Just look at it without taking sides, because I know that some of you people, some of us, they support the West for whatever reason. There are people who support Russia, and there are people who support other China and other places. Now, as a disclaimer, I do not support any one of them big countries in particular. But one thing I will say is that I particularly admire the way Vladimir Putin projects confidence and strength, even while he deals with all these Western countries that are vehemently against his advancement. The way he moves. And there were times I was looking at even the way he moves around through Russia, the way he's protected and all of that. It is something to admire. But a lot of the actions that he takes, I'm not in agreement with some of them. But going back to the topic, what we see happening in the world is there's a lot of threats and posturing that is being done by the countries that have advanced weaponry, weapons of war. And it really shows us something. We should be really opening our eyes to see that the presence of weapons, or the fact that one possesses advanced weaponry, it kind of gives you some kind of leverage on the global scale. We see, if you were not alive, just look at the First World War, the Second World War, and just look at how the balance of power affected the world. And mainly, the people that had advanced weaponry were the ones who really were calling the shots in the First World War, in the Second World War, and in every other war. And when you look at the Caribbean, we see ourselves as being vulnerable. People tell you when America sneezes, the whole Caribbean catches a cold and things like that. But I think that we, in spite of the fact that we are not financially strong as these people are, you need to have a presence on the world scale. You need to have a presence, not because you have money. That doesn't put you. You don't really have to put yourself in a situation for people to just be taking advantage of you like that. And that's what I see happening in the world. Look at the last set of events that happened between Russia and Ukraine. I believe that the bombings that took place in Ukraine, it caused some changes on the face of the earth. I believe it affected the temperature. I'm not sure if it did it in other places of the world, but I believe that some of these temperature changes that we saw in this country, in St. Lucia, and in other parts of the Caribbean, had a lot to do with the bombings that were taking place in Ukraine. People believe that these things are isolated. When I'm a soil scientist, and one of the first courses that we did, Introduction to Soil Science in America, Niall C. Brady was the author of the book, and they show how dust from Africa reaches all the way to United States of America. Dust. And dust particles will carry a lot of things with it. Dust particles can change the weather. So the smaller countries need to hold these bigger countries accountable and responsible for all of these actions they are taking on the face of the earth. Even in the case of global warming, the global warming thing that is happening, I just believe that these countries that are responsible for polluting the atmosphere, they have not been paying enough of their share in terms of restitution of the destruction that they have caused on the face of the earth. In light of that, we need to understand that in the Caribbean, we need to have some kind of strength. You cannot just be there as a weak link all your life, just depending on tourism, just depending on laws. These people will pass laws in their favor, and when they believe that these laws are no longer beneficial to them, they will drop it and they'll think of some other things to do. We need to advance in our weaponry in the Caribbean too, in whatever capacity we can. And the first place I think we need to start is we need to have our own satellite. We need in the Caribbean to have our own satellites. We need to have a way of monitoring our oceans, monitoring our vegetations, monitoring our urban development and things like that in the Caribbean with our own satellites. We need to be able to use the satellites to cause our telecommunications bill to be more manageable. We need to think in the Caribbean of having our own satellites. The whole small mentality of this, we are small people and all of that, that's not, we have seen, we have proven that in all of these big things that they do in the world, engineering and everything, our Caribbean people, our people in this country have been able to attain those levels. So right now we need to get into the manufacturing, the applying engineering knowledge to manufacture things. We need to be in those things. And in this country, St. Lucia, one of the things that we need to do in terms of weaponry is we need to have a computer center, advanced computer center, computer programming center, well fenced and well managed. Now I know that a lot of times people have no ideas. What they do is just take on people's ideas. This is my idea. We need to send some people overseas. We need to send more computer science people overseas. People, send them to Russia, send them to China, send them to different countries of the world to learn computer science, computer engineering. We have a few already. And we need to have a compound, just like you have the government buildings in Castries, we need to have a compound just for the computer programmers. And so what we're going to do is, when these guys come in from overseas, we bring them in the centers, we pay them very well, and we're going to be taking contracts from different countries of the world, different companies in St. Lucia, Jamaica, Iraq, anywhere, who want programming work done. That is done secretly in our computer labs, in our computer facilities, and the government charge these companies to do those things. We pay the computer programmers well, and we deliver service all across the world. But we're not going to be programming nothing for advanced weaponry, for people to be bombing and killing people. We're not going to be doing that. But we need to develop our weaponry in the Caribbean. And there's this thing now where I saw Israel was trying a weapon where they're using laser. They're using laser beam to destroy planes and things like that. We in the Caribbean, we will not have money to build a sophisticated army and all of those things. But we need to use our scientific knowledge to develop like laser weaponry, so that if we're being attacked for any reason in the future, we can use laser to bring down planes, and we can use laser to do other things that we have to do. We in the Caribbean need to be a more engineering and scientific community, because of the fact that we do not have all the resources that they have, these developed countries have. What we have is that. And so we need to train a lot of our young people to get into computer science and engineering, so that we can develop some of the weapons that we need to protect our land. Because what is going to happen is, we have seen it. These developed countries, what they do is the same agreements that they sign, when it becomes convenient to them, when they want to exploit your resources, they themselves will break these laws and they will invade your country if they have to. You understand? Or they will destabilize your country if they have to. So we need to find a way to use advanced science and engineering to have our own weapons to protect our country and use computer knowledge to gain money in this place. It is very important that we stop thinking the normal way that what we normally think. We need to have our own satellites. And the other thing we need to do in the Caribbean and in this country too is we need to have our own spy agency. Just like you have the FBI and you have CIA and all of those things, you have Scotland, MI6 and all of that. We need in the Caribbean to have our own spy agency, because even by just observing things in the country, sometimes I wonder why is it that people easily just allow people from other places to come in and have access to certain information. Certain times when I look at videos, the last time I was looking at a video on crime, and I'm seeing this guy who's reporting this thing is not from the country. The news people never told us those things. The police people are supposed to be giving report as to what is happening, and I'm never hearing those things in the country. So how the man get to have this kind of information? And there is other information. There are other countries, developed countries, who are coming from overseas in the guise of AIDS and NGO, and these people are getting too much information. Some of the information that these people have in about St. Lucia, we cannot have that information on their country. So sometimes I find like it is too easy to get information. We need to have spies in the land to really find out what people are coming and do. We need to have a school of espionage in this country to protect the country, because what happened now is even when investors come into these places, they're getting information from spy agency from the country that they're from. One of the roles of the spy agency is to strengthen the business sector of their country. You understand? So, for example, you will have things like the CIA and FBI and MI5, MI6 in England. One, and even how they call them, Mossad from Israel. One of the things these people do is to try to protect the business interests of the country that they represent in. And so business is warfare. There is a book that a guy wrote many years ago, Business is Warfare. And so these people take those things very seriously. They will destabilize your country. They will come to your places. They will infiltrate your businesses, mess up things so that they will control the giant share of the profits in the world. So we need to have our own satellite in the Caribbean. We need to have our own spy agency in the Caribbean. We need to have our weaponry, like using laser. And we're not looking for wars, but we have our laser program in our country. And if it is that they're going to send their warplanes or whatever, we can bring any plane down. And we need to have, in St. Lucia, we need to have a compound where we just have computer scientists just working 24/7, working for getting contracts from foreign companies, foreign governments to do things that are not related to war. But the people who are advanced in warfare, the people who are advanced in weaponry, they are the ones who will dominate. And it is for too long we have been at the bottom of everything. We need to use science to give us the advantage. We need to use science and technology to put us at the forefront. Keep the fire burning. We don't want to be here talk about this party, this and party that. We need to think of our position on the global sphere.